It was an unusually cold September evening when Emma first noticed the house. She had lived in her neighborhood for years, and she was certain that a house like the one she saw had never been there before. Nestled at the end of Oak Street, the house was shrouded in mist, its silhouette dark against the dimming sky. Its appearance was sudden, as though it had materialized from thin air. Emma, always one to follow her curiosity, decided to investigate. The house was old-fashioned, with gabled roofs and shuttered windows. Its paint was peeling, and the garden was overgrown with weeds. An iron gate, rusted and half-buried in vines, creaked open as she approached. With a shiver running down her spine, Emma stepped onto the path leading to the front door. As she walked, she noticed an unsettling detail. The shadows around the house seemed to move independently, writhing and stretching in unnatural ways. She hesitated but pressed on, her curiosity overpowering her sense of dread. The front door was ajar, and as Emma pushed it open, it groaned loudly, revealing a dimly lit hallway. The air inside was musty, filled with the scent of mildew and something faintly metallic. Emma's flashlight flickered as she stepped inside, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The house seemed to be frozen in time. Dust lay thick on old furniture draped in white sheets, and cobwebs hung like curtains in the corners. Emma wandered through the rooms, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Each room was more unsettling than the last, a dining room with a long, dusty table set for a dinner that had never happened, a living room with portraits of stern-faced people whose eyes seemed to follow her every move. As Emma ventured deeper into the house, she reached a grand staircase leading to the second floor. She hesitated for a moment, but decided to explore. The staircase creaked under her weight, each step seeming louder than the last. At the top of the stairs, she found a long corridor lined with doors. Each door was slightly ajar, and she could hear the faintest whispers coming from within. She reached the end of the hallway, where a single door stood slightly open. From behind it, a soft, rhythmic thumping could be heard, like a heartbeat. With a deep breath, Emma pushed the door open. The room beyond was surprisingly well kept, with elegant furniture and a large, ornate mirror on one wall. The thumping grew louder as she approached the mirror. When Emma looked into it, she gasped. The reflection in the mirror was not her own, but that of a pale woman with hollow eyes. The woman was standing in the room behind Emma, mirroring her every movement with a sinister smile. Emma spun around, but the room was empty. Panic surged through her as the temperature in the room plummeted. Her breath fogged up the air, and she could see her own terror-stricken expression reflected in the mirror. The thumping intensified, now unmistakably coming from within the walls. Suddenly, the mirror's surface began to ripple like water. The woman's reflection stretched out a hand, as though trying to reach through the glass. Emma stumbled back, her heart racing. She turned to run, but the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before her. Every door now stood wide open, each room filled with shadows that seemed to reach out for her. The whispers grew louder, turning into a cacophony of indistinguishable voices. Emma ran blindly, her flashlight flickering and dying. Just as she was about to collapse from exhaustion, she saw the front door of the house. She made a desperate dash for it, but as she reached the threshold, she was pulled back with an unseen force. She looked around in terror and saw the woman's face in every shadow, her eyes glowing with malevolent glee. In a final, frantic effort, Emma grabbed a nearby candlestick and swung it at the shadows. The impact felt like hitting a wall of liquid darkness. With a final scream, she stumbled out the door and onto the overgrown path. Breathless and covered in sweat, Emma turned back to look at the house. To her shock, it was gone. The street was empty, as if the house had never existed. The only sign of it was the faintest whisper of a cold wind and the lingering dread that settled in her bones. Emma never spoke of that night again, but she could never shake the feeling that the house was still out there, waiting at the end of Oak Street, for the next curious soul to wander too close. Subscribe to Shortsvits.